John, I have been holding my breath for how many chapters now?
37. 37 chapters of dust, ashes, bad advice from friends, and God's total silence. The tension has been at an absolute breaking point.
Honestly, I was starting to think God wasn't going to show up. Job has been screaming into the void, demanding his day in court, and we've just been sitting there in the silence with him. And then, day 30, the silence finally breaks. But it's not exactly the gentle whisper we usually hear about.
No way. This isn't the still small voice. The ESV says the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind. And Steph, we have to pause right there because the Hebrew word used for whirlwind is aeais. It's a tempest. It's a violent, unmanageable storm system. But there is a detail here that is so intense. I actually got chills when I saw it in the research.
Tell me, why the storm? Why not just a voice from a cloud?
Think about how this whole nightmare started for Job. Back in chapter 1, how did his 10 children die?
A a great wind struck the four corners of the house.
Exactly, a great wind. So now, when God finally decides to speak, he shows up in a whirlwind. For Job, this is a massive, visceral trigger. It's like God is saying, I'm not ignoring your trauma, Job. I'm meeting you right inside the very thing that broke you. Most people want God to take the storm away, but here, God is in the storm.
That is, that's heavy. It's almost like a trauma-informed theophany. He doesn't ask Job to get over it and come to a quiet mountain. He enters the chaos Job is already living in. But John, the very first thing he says to Job, it feels like a punch. Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge?
Oh, God is not pulling any punches. He's basically saying, Job, you've been talking for 30 chapters, but do you actually know how any of this works? And then he gives this command, dress yourself for a challenge. Or as the ESV puts it, gird up your loins like a man.
Gird up your loins. That's such a weird phrase for us today. It sounds like something you'd hear in a period piece drama. What does that actually mean for the listener?
Okay, think of it like this. If you're wearing a long, flowing robe, the standard business casual of the ancient Middle East, and you suddenly need to run a sprint or get into a wrestling match, those robes are a huge tripping hazard. To gird up your loins, you'd tuck the bottom of your robe into your belt to free up your legs for action. It's the ancient version of saying, put your game face on or buckle your seatbelt. God is saying, Job, you want a debate? Fine, get ready, because the questions are coming.
And the word for man there is interesting too, right? It's not just the generic word for a human.
You nailed it. The word is gever. It refers to a man in his strength, a warrior or a combatant. Job has been acting like a princely challenger, trying to litigate God's justice. So God takes him at his word. He's like, all right, warrior, if you think you're a heavyweight, let's see if you can handle the architectural review of the universe.
I love that. Architectural review, because that's exactly where God goes next. He starts asking these "where were you?" questions. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth?
It's the ultimate general contractor moment. God is walking Job through the blueprint. He's talking about marking off dimensions, stretching a measuring line, and sinking the footings. It's this picture of a building that is perfectly calculated and secured.
I noticed something cool in the research about that. While we know today that the earth hangs in space, God is using this architectural imagery to show Job that the world isn't a product of chaos. It's a designed, measured, and stable project.
Exactly. And here is the hidden gem of verse 7. While God is laying this cornerstone, he says the morning stars sang together and the angels shouted for joy. Steph, creation wasn't a silent construction site. It was a concert. Can you imagine the sheer volume of joy in that moment? Stars personified as singing and the sons of God, or angels, literally screaming with happiness because they were watching the master architect work.
That is such a beautiful image. It shifts the vibe from a scary storm to a cosmic celebration. But then God moves to the sea. And this is my favorite part of the chapter. He describes the ocean as if it's an infant bursting from a womb.
It's so good. He says he shut up the sea behind doors when it gushed out, and then, get this, he made the clouds its garment and wrapped it in thick darkness as its swaddling band.
Wait, so the Atlantic Ocean is just a giant baby in a cloud onesie?
Essentially, Think about how much we fear the ocean. It's this vast, untamable monster to us. But to God, it's a newborn that needs to be swaddled. He sets bars and doors and says, "This far you may come and no farther. Here is where your proud waves halt."
It's all about boundaries, isn't it? Job feels like his life has no boundaries, like the chaos has just flooded everything. But God is showing him that even the most chaotic thing on earth, the sea, is on a leash. It has limits that he assigned.
It's like a parent putting up a baby gate. The toddler might be proud and loud, but it can't go past the gate God installed. And God isn't done. He asks Job if he has ever commanded the morning or shown the dawn its place.
I love that imagery of the dawn, seizing the ends of the earth to shake the wicked out of it. It's like God is grabbing a rug and giving it a good shake to get the dust off.
Total house cleaning mode. And the text says the earth takes shape like clay under a seal. Think about a wax seal on an envelope. In the dark, the wax is just a blob. But when the seal of the sun hits the earth, all the details, the mountains, the valleys, they all pop out like a trendy outfit or the folds of a garment.
God is essentially saying, Job, every single morning, I am thwarting evil and redesigning the visible world while you're still asleep. Are you sure you want to tell me how to run things?
It's a massive reality check. We get so caught up in our front yard problems that we forget God is managing the storehouses of the snow and the water jars of the heavens. He's asking if Job has explored the springs of the sea or seen the gates of the shadow of death.
The scale is it's impossible to wrap your head around. It's like God is expanding Job's mental map from a local city map to a galactic atlas.
Exactly. And we are just getting started. Wait until you see how he talks about the animals in the next chapter. But I think we need a quick breather before we go on that zoo tour.
Definitely. Let's take a break. We'll be right back to talk about why God made a brainless bird and a horse that laughs at swords.
You won't want to miss the aha moment. Stick around. And we are back. If you're just joining us, you caught the first half where God showed up in a literal whirlwind, shouting out of the storm, and basically gave Job a cosmic reality check.
Reality check is putting it lightly, John. It was more like a total demolition of Job's ego. But now, as we move into chapter 39, the scenery changes. It's like the whirlwind stops at the edge of the woods, and God says, "Okay, Job, let's go for a walk. I want to show you some things."
It's the zoo tour. But here's the deal. This isn't your local petting zoo where you buy a cup of grain and feed the goats. God takes Job on a tour of the wild ones, the ones that don't have a collar, the ones that don't care if Job is the greatest man in the East or just some guy sitting in a pile of ashes.
It's interesting, right? He starts with the mountain goats and the deer. He asks Job, "Do you know the time they give birth? Do you watch when the doe bears her fawn?" It feels so intimate. Like, Job, you're so worried about your own due dates for justice, but do you even notice the miracles happening on the side of a cliff that nobody ever sees?
Exactly. God is saying, I'm the midwife for the mountain goats, Job. I count the months until they bear. They crouch, they bring forth their young, and then the babies just leave. They grow strong in the wild, and they don't return.
Every parent's dream and nightmare all at once. But then we get to the wild donkey, and God is it feels like he's bragging about how much he loves the donkey's rebellious streak.
Oh, he totally is. He says he untied its ropes. He gave the donkey the salt flats as its home. The wild donkey laughs at the tumult of the city and doesn't hear the shouts of the driver.
Wait, John, that sounds like a modern mirror waiting to happen.
Oh, it 100% is. Think about the grind culture we live in. Everybody is in the tumult of the city. Everyone has a driver shouting at them to move faster. And God is like, look at this donkey. He's out in the salt flats, totally free, totally unbothered, and I built him that way. Sometimes we think being productive is the only way to be good, but God creates things that are just wild, uncontrolled, and he loves them for it.
I feel like I need to spend more time in my personal salt flats and less time listening to the shouts of the driver. But then, okay, we have to talk about the ostrich. This part is wild. Verse 13 says, "The wings of the ostrich wave proudly." But then God basically roasts her for being a terrible parent and lacking common sense.
It's the original bird brain comment. The Hebrew is so cool here. The word for ostrich is renanum, which literally means shrill cries, and God contrasts her with the chesida, the stork. Now, chesida comes from the word chesed, which means loving kindness. Storks are known for being the ultimate parents, super attentive. But the ostrich? God says she leaves her eggs on the earth and forgets that a foot may crush them.
Why would God highlight that? It sounds so cruel. He literally says, God has deprived her of wisdom. Why make an animal and then deliberately leave the wisdom out of the programming?
This is the ostrich paradox. To us, she looks like a glitch. She has wings but can't fly. She's hardened against her young. If we were God, we'd fix her, right? We'd give her a higher IQ. But God says, wait for it. When she spreads her feathers to run, she laughs at the horse and his rider.
So the glitch is actually a feature?
Exactly. She can outrun a warhorse. She can hit 50 or 60 miles an hour. She's an absolute masterpiece of speed, even if she's a failure at being a stork. Modern mirror alert. How often do we look at ourselves and say, I'm failing because I'm not as wise or balanced as that other person? We see our glitches, the things we can't do, and we miss the fact that God might have given us a superior speed in a totally different area. God is sovereign over the weird designs too.
That's actually so comforting. God made her forget wisdom because he had a different plan for her. It wasn't a mistake, it was an intention. But then we go from the ostrich who laughs at the horse to the horse itself. And John, I know you love this part. The Warhorse description is just, it's metal.
It is so metal. Do you clothe his neck with thunder? The ESV says a flowing mane, but the imagery is power. The horse paws in the valley and rejoices in his strength. And then comes the interjection in verse 25. When the trumpet sounds, he says, aha!
I love that. He doesn't just neigh. He says, aha, like he's about to win a game of chess.
The Hebrew word is hey, ache. It's an onomatopoeia for joyful laughter or a shout of triumph. Think about it. Every other animal runs away from the flashing spear and the javelin. But the warhorse? He smells the battle from afar. He's not dismayed. He does not turn back from the sword.
It's like he's locked in.
He's in a flow state, Steph. Modern mirror? That horse represents that moment when you are so aligned with your purpose that the scary stuff actually gives you energy. You aren't unaware of the danger. You just laugh at it because you were built for this moment. And God asks Job, did you give the horse his might? Did you program that aha into his soul? Of course, the answer is no.
It's a reminder that courage is a gift, not just a personality trait we work up. And then we end the tour by looking up, the hawk and the eagle. God asks, is it by your understanding that the hawk soars and spreads his wings toward the south?
And the eagle. She builds her nest on the rocky crag. And Steph, I checked the eagle eyes thing. Humans usually have 20/20 vision, right? But eagles? They have 25th vision. That means what looks sharp to us at 5 feet, they can see with the same clarity from 20 feet away. They can spot a mouse from 2 miles up.
And God says her eyes detect prey from afar. But then there's that heavy line at the end, where the slain are, there she is. That feels a bit dark for a zoo tour, John.
It is dark, but it's real. Job is sitting in a place of the slain. He's lost everything. And God is saying, I'm the God of the eagle who is present even in the midst of death. I'm the God of the inaccessible crag and the God of the blood-stained valley. He's not a God who only hangs out in gentle valleys. He's the king of the hard places too.
He's the God of the whole ecosystem, the dumb bird, the warrior horse, and the blood-feasting eagle. It's a lot to process. Job has been arguing about justice, and God is answering with majesty.
He's basically saying, Job, if you can't even explain how a hawk knows when to fly south for the winter, how are you going to explain the migration of justice in the universe? It's a massive perspective shift.
I think I need a moment to sit with that 25 vision idea. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll see how Job finally opens his mouth to respond.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with segment 3.
And we are back for the home stretch. Honestly, John, my head is still spinning from that zoo tour. I was just looking over your shoulder at the reading list you've got pulled up on the screen. I see you've actually got Job 39 highlighted in blue there.
Yeah, I couldn't help it. The Warhorse saying, aha, just lives rent-free in my head. But we have to move into the actual climax of the encounter. We are looking at Job chapter 40, just those first 5 verses. It's a tiny sliver of text compared to the massive chapters we just walked through. But man, it packs a punch. It's like the whirlwind is still roaring, the dust is flying, and suddenly God just pauses. He stops the rhetorical fire for 1 second and looks Job right in the eye, or whatever you look at when you're staring into a tempest.
And he doesn't just say any questions. He says, will the one who contends with the Almighty correct him? Let him who accuses God answer him. John, that is such a high-stakes moment. Job has spent 30 chapters demanding this. He wanted his day in court. He wanted to present his strong reasons. And now the judge has finished his opening statement and said, the floor is yours, Job. Go ahead. Correct me.
Right? It's the ultimate step-up moment. And think about the modern mirror here. We do this all the time. We look at our lives, our bank accounts, our health, or even the news, and we have a list of corrections for God. God, if you were really just, you'd move this person here. You'd fix this system there. You'd have given me that promotion. We think we have the edit tool for the universe, but when God actually hands Job the microphone, Job doesn't use it the way we'd expect.
No, he doesn't. He says something that actually caught me off guard when I was looking at the original language. He says, behold, I am unworthy. How can I reply to you? Some translations say, I am vile, or I am insignificant. But John, you were telling me earlier that the word he uses there is really specific.
Yes, it's the word kaloti. And listeners, if you're taking notes, this is the hidden gem for day 30. Kaloti comes from a root word that means to be light. It's not necessarily a confession of a specific sin like his friends were hoping for. They wanted him to say, I'm a thief, or I'm a liar. But Job says, I am light. He's looking at the weight of God's glory, the weight of the stars, the weight of the sea, the weight of the Warhorse's courage. And he realizes that his own arguments have no mass.
So it's like a scale? On one side, you have the infinite wisdom of the Creator, and on the other, you have Job's complaints. And the scale just slams down on God's side. Job realizes he's a feather in a hurricane.
Exactly. It's like trying to argue with a world-class physicist about quantum entanglement when you barely passed 5th grade science. You might have a lot of opinions, but once the expert starts laying out the math, you realize your opinions have zero weight. You're light. Job isn't just being humble for the sake of it. He's had a genuine encounter with reality. He realizes he's not the center of the story.
And then he does the thing. He says, I lay my hand on my mouth. John, talk to me about that. In our culture today, we are taught to speak our truth, to have a voice, to never be silenced. But Job is choosing to silence himself.
It's the ultimate mute button. Think about it. The hand is usually the symbol of our power, our work, our ability to do things. But Job takes his own hand and uses it to restrain his own speech. He's practicing what I call spiritual quietness. He realizes that words without knowledge were just making the room darker. He says, I spoke once, but I have no answer. Twice, but I will say no more.
It's so powerful. It's not a silence of defeat like he's been bullied into being quiet. It's a silence of awe. He's basically saying, I finally see you, and you are so much bigger than the questions I was asking. It reminds me of that line from the research, that perspective is the best painkiller. Job still has his sores. He still has his empty house. But the pain of the why has been dissolved into the who of God's presence.
Man, that is it. We spend so much time trying to edit our pain, trying to explain it away with logic. But sometimes the only way to find peace in the whirlwind is to gird up like a warrior. Look at the stars and realize the one who names the Pleiades also knows your name. He doesn't owe us an explanation. He offers us an encounter.
And that encounter changes everything. Job doesn't need the answers anymore because he has the architect.
Boom. That's the day 30 mic drop right there.
Well, don't drop the mic yet. We still have to wrap up. Listeners, as you head into your day, think about that hand on the mouth gesture. Is there an area of your life where you've been contending with God, trying to correct his timing or his methods? Maybe today is the day to hit the mute button on the arguments and just look at the weight of his faithfulness in the past.
Yeah, take a look at nature. Look at a bird, look at the clouds, and remember, if he is managing the water jars of the heavens for a desert no one lives in, he is definitely managing the details of your life.
So good. John, give them that text message summary before we go.
Here it is. If you're texting a friend who is going through it right now, send them this. Perspective is the best painkiller. When we see how big God is, we realize he's big enough to hold our smallest hurts.
Love that. Thank you for joining us for day 30. We are almost to the end of Job, and you do not want to miss how this story concludes. Until then, stay inquisitive, stay in the Word, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
Keep that aha spirit alive, everyone. God bless.